Hey everyone and welcome to Solar Sunday, very cagey at GazLovers.com. I like to throw the website open and do something different, and I do that by doing Solar Sunday updates. So we're going to have a look at what's happening with the sun and with the solar cycles in a moment. I've been having a look at the solar page, see how many updates we've done so far, and this is the 7th update. So it's only a very casual thing that we do at the website, but I do occasionally like to throw the website over to the sun and to the solar cycle 24, and see what's happening. I believe it's very important for our weather in the UK, particularly in winter. So yeah, I do like to see what's going on with the solar cycles very occasionally. We're doing that today. Hope you enjoy the video. Now we're getting on with that, just want to say about the ads. There's links to articles on all pages at GazLovers.com. Have a browse with widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go and read the article. Because you're clicking from GazLovers to where that article is, we get a revenue fee on what you're doing. Thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages. Say open out within the content. Once you've watched them, they'll close back up again. So give them a watch. They're always quite short. Only last 20-30 seconds. So you won't be sitting around indefinitely watching those video ads. Please give them a watch. You'll be helping to pay for the website. These things will allow me to sit here and talk to you via GazLovers.com. So thanks so much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. Big thank you to James Ackrill for supplying me with all of the charts that you're going to see in this video. I couldn't do this update without the lovely charts that James has given me. He's a good friend of mine. He posts on the comments section of the website very regularly. I know he'll be watching today. So thanks so much to James for giving me these charts, and I hope I do your charts justice. Just say about what's happening on the website tomorrow. I'm hoping to go responsive tomorrow. I've been working on this for a couple of weeks. It's been a really hard job, but I think I've just about got it all together now. What it means is that if you're watching this video, or if you come to GazLovers on a mobile device, your screen from tomorrow should be constrained to the mobile view. So it should be much easier to navigate your way around the website. If you're on a desktop or a laptop or any other device, iPad, you shouldn't notice a great deal of change. There will be changes to the aesthetics of the website. Various colours will change, some buttons will change and things like that, but overall you shouldn't notice a great deal of difference. But on the mobile you will notice quite a big difference tomorrow if I've got it all together, and that's the big question. But I've got to wait until tomorrow to make sure that it's all working okay. The main thing is that I've got to back up all of the pages before I start switching over. It's going to be around a 2-week job to change all of the pages on the website, but I'm hoping to get the main ones done tomorrow if everything works out okay. So let's get on with the video. We'll start off with the solar disk on our side of the disk today from the website solarham.net, and this is the disk on our side of this today. We're looking for sunspots. It's very, very difficult to make them out. We have got one region of spots down here, some black spots there, but overall that's pretty much a universally clear solar disk on our side anyway of the solar disk. So that's very, very unusual, really. We've only just around a year and a bit of solar maximum. Solar maximum occurred in February last year, 2014. So only just a year or so of solar maximum to already be going to the spot list is quite unusual. But I think we are definitively on our way down into the solar minimum of this solar cycle now. So this is the first chart that James sent me. This is the monthly mean sunspot number, and we can see that how much weaker this solar cycle is compared to the last solar cycle, first of all. So the red line here is telling us where we've been over the past 2 solar cycles. So we've got solar cycle 23 just here. That was the solar cycle that ran from 1996 through to 2008, I think it did, just down here. And then solar cycle 24, which is just here. And that's the solar cycle that we're currently in. And it's very evident how much weaker this solar cycle has been compared to the last solar cycle, a much, much weaker solar cycle. But what's interesting is that we're clearly on our way down into solar minimum now, I think. So it's this area just right at the edge of the chart that we're interested in. This is sort of the current situation just here, and James has updated this up to April 2015. So when sort of NASA charts and the NOAA charts update in a few days' time, they are going to be looking very, very similar to this. And we can see how solar activity has dropped through the first part of the year. So we start up here at the start or at the end of last year, and we go down to March 2015, which is just there, and clearly there has been a very clear drop taking place through the course of this year in terms of sunspot numbers. We did tick up a little bit in April, so we can see that right at the very end, the very last sort of red line and yellow spot, we do tick up a little bit compared to where we was in March, but nevertheless still weak activity. And if that's clear solar diff that we were just looking at is anything to go by in terms of May well see a further drop in activity. Notice as well that we are well and truly back into the area that we was in through 2012, 2013, which is this sort of area just here. And we've got the two peaks of this solar cycle. It's quite unusual. Two peaks in a solar cycle aren't unusual. We get the first peak here at the end of 2011, so that's peak 1, and then peak 2, which is the solar maximum of this solar cycle, occurs at the start of 2014. Now, what's quite unusual about that is that the second peak is stronger than the first peak. That doesn't normally happen. What normally happens is what occurred in solar cycle 23, which is when the first peak there in 2000 was more intense than the second peak, which occurred in 2002. So very unusual solar cycle all round. Solar cycle 24 much weaker, and with the second peak being stronger than the first peak. So given it's quite an unusual solar cycle, we can't totally say how things are going to be panning out over the next few sort of months and next few years. But I think we're definitively going down into solar minimum now. We will get further spikes such as this in activity over the coming months, but the overall trend will be down, as we saw through solar cycle 23, down into the solar minimum, and then for about around a year, perhaps 18 months, could be longer, of course, we'll go into a period of very little or no solar activity, and that will be when we're at the true depths of solar cycle 24, true solar minimum. And then, of course, we'll start moving back up again sometime around 2020 into solar cycle 25, which is raising a lot of questions. And I think we'll probably start getting a few forecasts, actually, from people like NASA within the next few months for solar cycle 25. So that's going to be very interesting to see what they are showing. This shows us the sunspot number from both ISSN and NOAA. The red line is what we're just looking at from ISSN. The green line is from NOAA, and you can see that all round it's been very similar. We have the double peak, and then we drop down. Yeah, they both look very similar. More activity, or higher sunspot numbers, really, from the green line. But overall, very similar trend, which is a much weaker cycle compared to the last cycle, with the two peaks, the second peak of this cycle being stronger than the first peak, which is quite unusual. And now we do seem to be dropping down into solar minimum. Now, for the last few updates, we've been looking at the comparison between this solar cycle and solar cycle 12. Solar cycle 12 was a solar cycle that occurred from around 1877 or 1878 through to 1890, way back in the Victorian era. And the resemblance between these two solar cycles has been pretty uncanny, both in terms of the solar activity and in terms of the impacts that it's had for winter conditions in this country. So I'll have a look at that in a moment. But first of all, I wanted to show you that on the graph here, we'll be looking at this, using this for quite a few of these updates now. On the graph, we still seem to be running very, very, very closely to solar cycle 12. So what we look at here is that the orange line on this graph is solar cycle 24, and the green line is solar cycle 12, and the peaks and the troughs are really running very, very close. They're not totally linear, and you wouldn't expect them to be an absolutely perfect match, but overall, I've got to say that is an uncanny sort of resemblance with these peaks and troughs that's occurring through the solar cycle of 24 and solar cycle 12. And we go through to this latter part of the chart, in terms of the orange line anyway, so that's bringing us bang up to date. And we can see that we've dipped down and gone up. And if I get rid of those red lines, you can see that's exactly what happened with solar cycle 12. Look at this, the green line went down, then it went back up, and then plunging down before one final spike upwards, nowhere near to the solar maximum, and then down into solar minimum. That is an uncanny resemblance, certainly up to where we are now, between solar cycle 12 and solar cycle 24. It is evident that the spike that's occurred in April in activity is not as high as the spike that occurs in solar cycle 12 at this point. Of course, in the next month or two, we may get a spike upwards. If we do, that could impact things towards the end of the year as we're heading up into winter. But I think really the trend lines, which are these, which this thick green line, that's the trend line but solar cycle 12. I think the trend line is very much down in solar minimum from around now onwards, and I think that is very much going to be the case with solar cycle 24 as well. This is comparing solar cycle 24, the current solar cycle, to several other solar cycles. Particularly interested in solar cycle 5, which is the green line. Early on in the solar cycle, and this is into the Dalton minimum. I've talked about the Dalton minimum before. I don't want to go into it in too much detail at the moment for this video, but this blue line just here is where is Dalton minimum, solar cycle 5, way back at the start of the 1800s. At the beginning of this solar cycle, there was quite a bit of speculation that 24 and 5 were sort of running closely, and we may be going into a Dalton minimum, but you can quite clearly see we have had a great deal more activity in this solar cycle compared to solar cycle 5. So we're up here, albeit much weaker than most solar cycles through the 20th century, whereas solar cycle 5 is down here. So we did break away from solar cycle 5, and I think sort of get away from those ideas of a Dalton minimum for this solar cycle. But solar cycle 25, as I said a few moments ago, is raising a lot of questions about whether that one could be actually down in the depths of sort of Dalton minimum type solar activities. That's going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out. Now, I showed you this quite a lot over the last few updates, but this is updated up to last winter. Now, this is the Central England temperature comparison chart for those two solar cycles. So we've got the dark blue line, which is dark blue colours, dark blue boxes, and the dark blue line, which is solar cycle 12, winter central England temperature anomalies. As I say, this solar cycle goes from 1877 and 1878 over to 1890, 1890, I think it's 1890, 1891. So, yeah, this dark blue line, the dark blue boxes, is from solar cycle 12. The lighter blue boxes from solar cycle 24, the solar cycle that we're currently in. And as I've explained in the videos before, again, very apparent how these winter central temperatures are aligning very closely. So we've got an alignment in terms of the solar cycle. We appear to have quite good alignment between the winter central temperatures of these cycles as well. So we start at the beginning of both of the cycles, which is 1877, 1878, and 2007, 2008, we start here with a mild winter. Then we go into a cold winter for the next winter, which is 1878, 1879, a severely cold winter, of course, down here, and 2008, 2009. So it's not a perfect match again, just as with the solar cycle graph. It's not an absolute perfect alignment, but the trend is very similar. We start mild, we go cold. And then the next winter, which is 1879, 1880, and 2009, 2010, look at this cold winter again. And this time, 2009, 2010 is colder than the winter that goes with it in the 1800s. The next winter is 1880, 1881, and 2010, 2011. Of course, both winters contain severely cold months. We'll have a look at that in a moment, but both winters contain a severely cold month, although both winters are not severely cold in their own terms, but they do contain some ferociously cold months. Then the next winter, they both go milder than average. Look at that. And the winter in the 1800s, with solar cycle 12, was actually milder than its corresponding winter in 2011-2012. We break away from the trend for the winter of 1882, 1883, and 2012, 2013. The winter in the 1800s is milder than average. 2012, 2013 is colder than average. So we do get a break there. We do break away from the trend. But then we go through to the winter of 1883, 1884, and its corresponding winter in 2013, 2014. Look at this. They're both going significantly milder than average. And that brings us bang up to date for 1884, 1885, and 2014, 2015. And you can see they're very close, actually, but the winter in the 1800s, 1884, 85, was a little bit milder than average, whereas the winter of 2014, 2015, just a smidgen colder than average, but overall, more or less around average. I think we can say that there's only a few tenths of a degree in that, really. So I don't think we can say that's a break away from the trend such as we have in 2012, 2013. I would say that is really a continuation of the trend, albeit a few tenths of a degree different, but overall coming out quite close to average in terms of both winters. Now you'll notice going on, we only have the dark blue boxes, and that's because we're bang up to date, so we can't go on any further with the winters of solar cycle 24. But for winters of solar cycle 12, you'll notice, I'm sure you've been looking at this while I've been talking, that the next 3 winters all go quite, or went quite significantly colder than average. So this means that if we continue this trend, maybe the next 3 winters, which is going to be 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017, and 2017, 2018, maybe those winters hold the potential for going significantly colder again, as we saw during solar cycle 12. We have to bear in mind that we're in a warmer time overall because of climate change, because various other things. We are in a warmer time overall compared to where we was back in the 1800s. But nevertheless, you'll see that there have been some winters through this solar cycle that have been colder than their corresponding winter in the 1800s. So by no means beyond the realms of impossibility that we couldn't go down into these cold winters. So we're just going to have to wait and see how that pans out. So as I say, there is a comparison between this solar cycle and the solar cycle 12, and James has sent through some interesting sectional income temperature information here. So we've got 1880, 1881 in terms of the winter, spring, summer and autumn CETs. You can see it was a cold time at that point in the solar cycle, with many of the seasons coming out colder than average. The best is the spring of 1880, which just comes out 0.1 of a degree above average. But overall, it is a cold time. You see, the corresponding period in 2010, 2011 Again, cold period, coming out colder than average. Just about all months. The summer of 2010 comes out about average, but overall, again, good agreement. But 1880, 1881, 2011, 2010, 2011, both corresponding very nicely. Then we go on and we have a milder winter in both of those solar cycles. So we've got 1881, 1882, 2011, 2012. Again, these are seasonal CTs. You can see that, of course, we're going into the yellow and orange categories through both of these winter periods, or both these yearly periods, seasonal periods, really. From 1881, 1882 to 2011 and 2012. So again, very, very close sort of agreement. Not totally the same. The seasons aren't sort of totally the same on both solar cycles, but overall quite good trend there between both of those solar cycle years from 1881, 1882 and 2011. 2012. James has sent through some interesting comparison graphs. So we've got December 2010 over on the right of the screen as you're looking at it. That's a chart from December 2010, and this over here is from January 1881, which was a very severely cold month. I haven't done a historic video yet for 1881, Jan 1881, but I have been meaning to do it, just haven't got round to it yet. But you see again lots of northern blocking on both of these charts, and they are corresponding between the periods of the solar cycles, of course, as we just saw. So lots of northern blocking there on both of those charts. December 2010, of course, happens in December. 1881 happens in January. But overall, good agreement on the blocking shaping up. And again, another chart there showing pretty good agreement, almost uncanny, really, between January 1881 and December 2010. Also, pretty good agreement between the cold March of 1883 and the cold March of 2013. And again, this is corresponding for the various points of the solar cycle. So they are, again, in agreement. So we see that lots of northern blocking there for March 1883. I've been meaning to do a historic video for that as well. And lots of northern blocking for March 2013, which was a severely cold month. Of course, it was pretty much the coldest March since that one, 1883. The upper air temperatures show that, again, very good agreement there between 1883 and 2013. In fact, probably a little bit colder in 2013 than 1883, which is quite interesting and perhaps quite surprising given the overall warming trend that we are in. Upper air temperatures again for March 1883 and March 2013. Again, very good agreement between those two. And then we go to a milder winter in both of the solar cycles. So we've got the winter of 1883, 1884, and the winter of 2013, 2014, much more Atlantic driven. So we've lost all the northern blocking on both of these winters with these deep areas of low pressure crashing into the country in 2013 and a transient to a sort of mid-Atlantic ridge in 1883, but they are both significantly milder, significantly more Atlantic-driven patterns in both of those winters. 1884, this is January 1884, shows again very flat westerly pattern, and once more I point out that these are corresponding, these winters are corresponding with each other between the two solar cycles of 12 and 24. Very similar for February 1884 and February 2014. The Central England temperatures, again, do correspond very closely to one another. So we've got 1883, 1884 just here at the top. You see that most of the months coming through here from November 1883 to March 1884, significantly milder than average. it's the same story for 2013 and 2014. So we start off at November 2013, which is a bit colder than average, and then the rest of the months go through into the start of 2014, actually going significantly milder than average. And again, we see from these charts for December 1883 and December 2013 that we are in a very flat Atlantic-driven flow there. So pretty good agreement. I think you'll agree that solar cycle 12 and solar cycle 24 are running very close to one another in terms of the overall solar activity. And they are also running very close to one another, almost uncannily close to one another, in terms of the response, in terms of the atmospheric setup anyway, for the winter time. The idea is much less for the rest of the yearly period. So for spring, summer, autumn, although we have got some agreement there for the cold springs of 1883 and 2013, we have got a little bit of agreement there. But for summer, autumn patterns, their signal isn't as strong. But for winter, and of course solar activity is always something that we look at in the winter or proceeding to the winter, because we know there's an impact from solar activity in terms of what it means for blocking. If you get a lot of solar activity, you can have a reduced chance of blocking. If you don't have much activity, you have a greater chance of blocking. So we know there's that relationship there. And it is very evident that both the solar cycles are running close together in terms of the activity, and they are running both very closely to one another in terms of what that means for blocking. And this is very interesting as we look ahead to the next 3 winters, because we know that for the winters in solar cycle 12 were cold winters, all 3 coming up were cold winters. And will that impact the 3 winters that we've got coming up for this solar cycle, starting for the coming winter and going through to around 2018? All very interesting. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm winding up now. All very interesting questions, I'm sure you'll agree. But in terms of what's happening with the solar cycle, anyway, going back to where we started, we are going down into solar minimum. I'm convinced of that now. So that's when it's out of the way. We're dropping into solar minimum. May get one more fairly significant spike upwards. We did in solar cycle 12. We're running closely to that, so we may get one more spike up. Shouldn't get back to where we was at the start of 2014, which was the solar maximum. But overall, it's downhill all the way now into solar minimum. As the activity gets weaker, the chance of blocking and colder winters is going to increase over the next few years. That's it for now. Come back tomorrow for the May month-ahead forecast. And, of course, I'm changing the website a little bit as well tomorrow as well. So it's all happening over the weekend. Hope you enjoyed the video, though. And that's all for now. Thanks for watching.